Hi, everyone. Okay, thank you very much for joining us today. I guess we're still waiting for a couple more attendees to join in. So I think, let's go ahead and wait for 30 seconds to 1 minute more. And after that, we can kickstart our content. And for those of you who are already in the room, sit back and relax, and we're going to be starting with our content very soon. Thank you. Okay, so thank you very much for joining us here today on a Saturday. My name is Ariel, and I'm the presenter for today. Today, we're going to be mainly talking about how to prepare for university application as a G11 student. So I think I'm just assuming that all of the attendees in the room currently, they are G11 students, so which means they will be applying for universities in the upcoming academic year. So I'm not sure how much you're already done to prepare for the university application process, or you're still in the process of exploring, different university options. But yeah, today we're going to share a little bit of tips regarding what you can do over the course of next year to be a little bit more prepared, for your universities. Okay, so before we go ahead and get started, I just wanted to introduce myself as well. So for those of you who don't know me already or had never attended other webinars that I hosted, my name is Ariel. I'm one of the co-founders of Millie, and I am also the global head counselor of the company. So with that said, I actually oversees our university guidance counseling team, and we work with a lot of students around the world to achieve their university goals. And prior to that, I was actually an in-school university guidance counselor in 2 Ivy World schools in Hong Kong, including my alma mater, the United World College of Hong Kong. And ever since I graduated, I started undergraduate years at Cornell University with a Bachelor of Science in Hotel Administration. And after graduation, I went to my international school role. And after assisting over hundreds of students applying for university, I decided to start my own company with my co-founders. And we designed our own in-house university guidance curriculum. And we have now been operating for years, and we've helped over hundreds of students applying for universities worldwide. So if you have any questions regarding applying for universities in the States, in UK, Canada, different parts of Europe, Asia, etc., if you have any questions related to that, feel free to reach out to me throughout the course of this webinar. You can use the Q&A and chat function to leave your comments and questions there, and I'm going to try to tackle them as much as possible. And additionally, I think just one more thing to mention is the fact that I also help a lot of students prepare for their interview process, be it the Oxford interview style of preparation or the admission interviews in the United States colleges. So if you have any questions regarding that, or you want to know what questions could come up, you can feel free to ask me that as well. So let's go to today's agenda. So first of all, in order to prepare for university application, it's very important to understand what they are looking for in an application. So what are some of the things that you need to submit? What are things that you should start thinking about as a G11 student moving on to the application year? So the earlier you know about the key components of the university application, the better that you can get ahead of other students and prepare all the documents in advance. And after that, we're going to discuss briefly the application strategy, which helps with your university research, actually. So, with the strategy in mind, you can also populate your university list with different ideal universities, which is a good fit for yourself. And you can take the list to discuss with your counselor at school as well. And you will be able to have the finalized list by the end of this academic year, hopefully. So you'll be all prepared for next academic year. And obviously, we're not going to miss out on the entrance exam preparation. So can I have a show of hands? How many of you are applying to the US or thinking about applying to US colleges? Okay. Okay, Tonya, I see that you raised your hand. So you're thinking about the US. So have you taken your SAT already? If you have, you can, keep your hands raised. And then if not, you can just put your hand down. Okay, so you haven't taken your SAT. That's okay, completely fine. So we're going to touch on that a little bit later today as well. Or any students in the room looking to apply to the UK. UK? Okay, Tanya, you're also applying to the UK. Okay, great. So, we're also going to touch on the Cambridge assessment, which basically deals with students who are applying to top universities in the UK. So how to plan out the test timeline, which test to take, which test not to take. These are some of the key questions that we ask students to think about, especially in the start of grade 11, so they don't run into the situation where they are realizing too late that there are certain tests that they need to take and they're not exactly prepared for them. Last but not least, we're also going to cover the guidance support that we offer here at Millie. We have a flagship program called the Practice Makes Perfect, and this is especially designed for students in their grade 11. So if you find some of our content useful and you would like to work with us on a one-on-one setting with our expert mentors and coaches, then I would say that this would be the perfect program for you to look at, especially for university guidance in your grade 11. So yes, let's dive straight into the content with the first agenda of the day. What are some of the key elements of an application? So it doesn't matter whether or not you're actually applying to the US, UK, Canada, or other destinations for universities. The components, they're more or less the same. Some may ask for more, some may ask for fewer, but then, the baseline documents, they are all listed here in this particular slide. And we are going to touch on the financial aids application documents a little bit later if you're looking for scholarship and financial aid support as well. But mainly, these are the 5 components that you really need to have when you're putting together your application. So first of all, personal statements. Depending on which country you apply for, there could be more things that you need to write, or there could be fewer things that you need to write. For instance, in the UK for next year, they're actually changing system. So right now, students only need to submit one main application essay, and it would be 4,000 characters with space and punctuation. However, starting next year, they're going to change the formats into multiple mini questions. So instead of asking you to write one essay, it would be broken down into different questions that the students need to answer in shorter context and shorter extents. But then the content remains all more or less the same, still asking about your academic interest, what you have done to prepare for them, etc. But then if you're applying for the US, like Tonya, if you're applying to both places, then probably you need to have a lot more preparation needed in terms of the essay side of things, because they do ask for multiple essays. One of them would be what is called the Common App. So most of the students, if they're applying for the US, they would find themselves having to complete the Common Application, which is already one centralized essay in itself that you need to send to multiple universities that operates under the Common App system. But on top of it, each college requires additional essays. So let's say if I was applying for Cornell, apart from that one main essay that I need to complete for the Common App, I actually need to complete 2 more essays, and they're not short, ranging from 200 word all the way to 650 words. Some colleges ask for 800 words or even 1,000 words. So there are definitely a lot of different pieces that you need to write, and they're not easy because sometimes they ask for very creative prompts, like if you are to write your autobiography, what do you think you would put down on page number 247, right? So when you read this question, you really don't know what to write and you don't know what they're looking for. So it takes time to brainstorm the ideas and the content for the particular statements. You also need to do your research on the universities, because sometimes they ask, why Cornell? Well, so why does this school attract you so much? Or why MIT? Why U Michigan? So you really need to know more about the school, about the programs that they offer, about their facilities, about their faculty, in order to, put together very good content for your statement. So do start the research process earlier. And some of the students, they would start attending campus tours. They would start looking at online resources like YouTube channels or podcasts, etc., around the colleges that they're interested in, so as to prepare themselves for the kind of research necessary when they start to write these supplemental essays. So do start the research process earlier in grade 11, so that you're not going into grade 12 with no idea what schools you would like to see. And then additionally, you also need the teacher and counselor reference. So usually for UK universities, they ask for one reference from your school's counselor, so that it's easier to arrange. But then in the US, apart from the counselor reference, they also ask for 2 additional letters of recommendation from your subject teachers. So if you have a particular teacher that you bond with really well, say starting grade 11, you may want to check with them on whether or not they would like to be your recommenders when you get to grade 12. So you're not running into the situation where you really need to submit your application in 1 week and then you have nobody to write your recommendation. Usually, even if the teacher agreed to be your recommenders, give them a lot of lead time before the application deadline. Let's say 2 months before, extend the invitation to them to be a recommender on Common App or on UCAS, something like that. And then maybe a few more weeks before the deadline, remind them again, because teachers are busy. They may not exactly remember when the deadline is. So make sure that you talk to them verbally, you confirm the understanding via email, and then give them adequate reminders before the application deadline. So going back to my points, as a grade 11 student, do make sure that you check with your teachers in advance to see if they can be your recommenders, and try to bond well with the teachers related to your chosen major. Let's say if you're interested in like applying for engineering, then you may want to bond with your math and physics teachers and see if they would like to be your recommenders next year. And standardized test grades or scores. So with this, I'm referring to the SAT or the ACT in the US. So most of our students, especially if they're under our guidance, we recommend that they start preparing for the test and start taking the test when they're in grade 10 and grade 11. So you don't run into the situation where you are a few months away from your application deadline, but then you don't have a usable SAT score that you're happy with. And these tests, they don't come every other week, right? It's not like IELTS or TOEFL, they run relatively frequently. So if you miss out on the test date, you can catch up on the next. But these are tests that actually comes only once around few months. So if you missed out on the test date, you may need to wait for 2-3 months in order to get to the next test dates. So yes, it gives you more time to prepare, but then at the same time, you would be under time pressure to finish it within a shorter period of time. And then we have a term called PG that we always use on our students. And this is always a major stress point for a lot of the students. So PG stands for predicted grade. So your current school would give out a set of predicted grade, that predict your final results of your respective curriculum or public exam. So with that predicted grade, you will be sending them to the universities. So they would use that as a benchmark of your academic performance or whether or not you meet their minimum entry requirements. So this set of grade is going to be very important. And a lot of the students, they underestimated the importance of grade 11 and then think that they can, still catch up on their grades later, even if they are not doing so well in grade 11. But they forgot the fact that a lot of the students, they forgot the fact that the teachers will base their grading in your G11 performance as well. So let's say if you slack off in grade 11 and then you're planning on catching up in grade 12, usually it's too late. And if your grade 11 finals, they're not good, the teachers also don't have grounds to predict you a better grade. Or if you missed out on your coursework a lot, you don't do your homework, you don't do any extra credits, you don't try to answer teachers' questions in class, you don't show that you have that motivation to learn more outside of your curriculum. All of these, they would hinder the final grading, that your teacher is going to give you for PG. So do make sure that you leave a very good impression with all of your subject teachers and try to achieve the best grades possible in your grade 11 finals so that you would have a better set of predicted grade to use to apply for universities. And if you have switched schools halfway in your high school, let's say you haven't been attending the same school in the last 4 years, then it's very important to get in touch with your previous schools as well. So let's say you have changed school starting grade 11, and then you used to be in a different school in grade 9 and 10, then it's very important for you to reach back out to your counselor in grade 9 and 10 to offer you the official school transcripts, because for US colleges, they ask for 4 years of transcript, not this year, not next year's, but 4 years in total. So from grade 9 all the way to grade 12, they do ask for the whole set of transcripts. So imagine you're a few days away from your deadline, but then your previous school only know by then that they need to supply you with the set of transcripts. They have administrative time that they need to process anyone's transcripts, so they may not have the time to process it in time. So it's better for you to get that handy with you. So whenever you need, you can just submit it on request of the universities. And if you can inform your school earlier in advance, they can also kind of know your application timeline and help to send out the official transcripts from their school side as well. And then last but not least, CV and extracurricular portfolio. So a lot of the students, they find themselves having an empty transcript with no activities whatsoever in their grade 12, or they may not have done enough to fill out the entire page of resume or CV. So some universities, like, let's say if you apply for a Common App, they would have a room for you to upload your transcripts and upload your CV. So if you don't have a CV, it's not the end of the world, but then it would seem like you haven't done much over the course of your high school, and you didn't achieve a lot of things, extracurricular speaking. So they like to see that students are holistic in their development, and that they also have a lot of different activities that they're interested in apart from just studying. So in grade 11, try to participate in more clubs that interest you, maintain your hobby, try to assume leadership position because you're already a penultimate year students, participate in good summer programs, or even think about starting your passion projects, all of which would cultivate towards your CV and ultimately your portfolio to be submitted to universities as a whole. So any questions in that slide so far? Any questions that I can answer for you? Yep. Okay, Tanya, in terms of extracurriculars, etc., can CAS count for this? So I'm assuming that you're IB students. Yes, CAS can count towards this, but at the same time, it is also very important for you to hopefully do something outside of CAS, or even if you're in CAS, try to see if you can gain a leadership position as well. Because just a member or participant of a certain CAS activity, it may not be strong enough to sort of appeal to universities, because they're really looking for students who show quality of leadership, initiative, persistence. So if your CAS activities, you've only done it once and only for a few months, it doesn't speak as much about you as a person than showing off an activity that you have been participating for years. So yes, CAS does count, but it depends on what kind of CAS activity and whether or not you are taking a certain position within the CAS activity. Very good question. I hope I managed to answer that as well. Okay, so moving on to the next slide. So with all of the things that you need to prepare for university applications, and given how complex the system actually is, and obviously different countries of destinations, they look for different things. US may look for a certain type of students. The UK, they are appealing for academically focused students. Canada is a mix of both. In different parts of Asia or Europe also looks for different types of student profile. So you definitely need to have a strategy. So looking at, first of all, most of our students, they start off with understanding the reach, match, and safety. You need a strategy because a lot of the international schools, they actually limit the number of schools that the students can apply for, in terms of university application, because they don't want students to apply to 30 schools blindly. They just submit application to any schools that they see. They want the students to maximize the chances of getting in, but at the same time, put thorough thoughts into where they think would be a good fit for them. So that's why we don't advise students to apply to like 30, 40 schools. It's not a good strategy. It also, yes, it could increase the chances of getting in, but at the same time, would you actually consider going to somewhere that you have never heard of, right? Or you have never done research of? So actually, first step of university application or preparation in general, I asked my student to, first of all, come up with like a major that they're interested in, research in that area to see what universities are very good at this particular major. Because if you just filter the universities by ranking, they may come up very differently if you place a filter on your favorite subjects. Let's say if a school is doing very well on global ranking overall, when you filter it by journalism, let's say, it may not even appear on the list because it doesn't offer something called journalism in their school major. Similar logic. So major first, and then get into the university side of the research. And when you're doing university research in your grade 11, make sure to consciously put them in buckets. So we call them reach bucket, match buckets, and safety bucket. So there should be 3 different kinds of universities that you would be categorizing your research into. And the reach schools, they're basically your top dream universities. So this would also be the bucket, where the most competitive universities would lie. They could be universities that have very low admission rates, or you may need, a lot more extracurricular activities to be fitting for their profile. These are the universities that, maybe have single digits acceptance rates overall. Or a lot of students, they actually omit this, but if you cannot afford to go to the university without a particular scholarship offering or financial aids, that is also considered a reach category, because these things are not for sure. I have had cases of students where they got into a certain university, but then they didn't indicate that they actually have the financial needs. That's not good, because you can't go to a university that you cannot afford the tuition for. So if this is a huge uncertainty for you, definitely also put the university in the reach bucket. And then the match bucket should be, you're checking the boxes for everything. It has a much higher acceptance rate. It has a good program that you're interested in. It's also within your family's affordability in terms of tuition range. So everything sort of checks out for your category. And you also currently have like a set of grades that match with their requirements. And then we have the safety. A lot higher acceptance rates, maybe over 50% acceptance rate, or at least 40 to 60% acceptance rates, with larger class size, and also lower than what you're currently achieving in terms of academic requirements, but then still offer a very good program that you're interested in. There's no point putting in a safety option that you would never consider going, because safety is safety, because touch wood, if anything happened to your reach and match choices, you didn't get in, you would still have very good safety school that you would happily go to. So a lot of the students, they would put in safety schools because Ariel told me to do that, so I'm going to throw a few names there. I've never heard of them. I don't know what they do. I don't know what they offer. So that's not a good strategy. because obviously you have never done research on the school, you don't know what programs they offer, and one day if your reach and match school fails and you do need to consider your safety school, you would find yourself under a very stressful situation because you have never considered your safety carefully. Okay, so put as much thought into your safety school and do as much research as possible in your grade 11, just as how much time and effort you would spend looking into your reach school, because some days you may find yourself needing your safety and match options more than the reach options. Okay. So next, so entrance exam preparation. So SAT and ACT. So if you are planning on applying for US colleges and you're aiming for top US colleges, I often advise all of my students to try out the SAT or the ACT. And they should do the test between grade 9 to grade 11, or at least the preparation should start in grade 9, 10, and students should be sitting the test around grade 10, 11. So I know some of the, a lot of students, they would actually ask me, okay, Ariel, but then a lot of the US colleges, they're test optional. Do I still need to take it? Short answer, yes. It would be much better, if you have the test handy, and if you're applying for competitive US universities, yes, they could be optional, but a lot of the students applying, they would have a top sets of SAT score. So if you look at the test paper, you think it's doable for you, you think it's not too much of a hassle for you to give it a try and prepare for it, then, I would, suggest try taking it and see whether or not you can achieve a score of over 1,500. If you're aiming for top 30 universities in the US, 1,500 is the range that you should be aiming for. And in terms of ACT, the total score is in 36. So students should aim for a 34 or above if they're looking at top 30 US colleges. Okay, so nowadays, SAT, which is the more popular one between the two, they runs it in digital style. So basically, you no longer have a paper and pencil test because ACT also migrated to digital long time ago. No matter which part you pick, you would still need to use the digital version of the test. And it basically tests you on English and maths. So you can take a trial test with us. Actually, if our host can kindly send out the link to the next diagnostic test, we actually have SAT free online diagnostic test for you to try out. So you can see where your current performance is at, and then you can devise your strategy afterwards. And if you are a aspired medical school student, then and you're wanting to apply to the UK, then you probably find yourself having to prepare for tests like UCAT. And if you're a lawyer, then and you're applying for LNET schools, then you would need to prepare for the LNET. And the UCAT is actually part of the Cambridge Assessment's offerings, and then LNET, they're under the Pearson as well. So do try to get that out of the way in your grade 11. At least you can start preparing for them. So when you take them in grade 12, you don't feel like it's so stressful anymore. And we strongly recommend to spend 2 weeks in your spring semester or summer, closer to summertime in your grade 11 to try writing the UCAS or the Common App personal statements, because this is the kind of writing that students need to get used to. You also need to start brainstorming content, as I mentioned in the first slide. So do try to do it in the second semester of your junior year, so you have a little bit more time to brainstorm content and you don't have to do it in a hurry. So honing in a little bit on the digital SAT, right now, since March 2023, we have already transitioned to the digital SAT. The US college, the high schools within the US, they're still running the paper and pencil test. And after this year, they would also fully migrate to the digital test. So the main thing that changed is in the test format. Whatever they test you in the content side of the thing still remain the same. So it's still testing your English and it's still testing your math. But then in terms of the format changes, actually, there are more format changes in English than in maths. So in English, you would see more short text versus before when you're taking your paper and pencil SAT test, a lot of the passages, they are super long. So it's like a very long passage, you read it, and then you tackle 10 to 11 questions with that passage. But then now with the new digital SAT, one short paragraph would be corresponding with one question. So you read one short paragraph and then you tackle one question. So you don't have to read everything and then tackle a lot of questions at the same time. So this could be more focused and easier to grasp for a lot of students. So focus on the analysis, not the content, like in an extended piece of text. They also have something called the appearance of poetry. For the first time, they have poetry questions. And then there's also a notes summary style question. So if you don't know, what these are, I encourage you to experience that, with our SAT diagnostic test. In terms of the math section, actually, they provide a digital calculator, which is good, because before you only are relying on a physical calculator, but then here in their new digital exam taking interface, they have a digital calculator embedded. So if you're trained by your school to do the digital calculator formats, or you are good with using a digital calculator for computation, then this would be an advantage for you. And the difficulty range definitely expanded. There are questions that are really easy, much easier than any question that you would get in the previous SAT. But then there are also questions that are harder, than the test before. So, the range is different, but then the content remains the same. Okay. Yes, I see that our host actually sent in the SAT diagnostic test registration in the chat room. So if you are interested in taking our next free diagnostic test in November 11th, I believe, then you can click onto the sign up link and sign up for the exam. So now on to the last part of our presentation. Actually, I would like to go through our Practice Makes Perfect program, with our attendees today. So basically, our setup of this particular program, we think about what the students would need to do in their grade 11s, and then we suggest the program component accordingly. So it's going to be a comprehensive university preparation, quite intense actually, preparing you for the 4 areas, mainly on the left-hand side of the screen. So first of all, as I mentioned, start with the major exploration. Like some students, they may not exactly know which major are offered in which university, or they have a range of subjects that they're interested in and good at, but then they have problem thinking about, which major would be the best fit for them. So our mentors actually help students explore different academic interests and introduce them to different majors that they could consider in university. And then from then on, you would start looking at the university exploration. So having a major in mind, then we can research on the universities that are good at this particular major, and then build your university list from there. And we would also look at your extracurricular profile at the moment, what you're already doing. We would develop your resume together, and we will see if there are any gaps that we think that we can close, in this particular academic year as well. So let's say if, you're lacking some of the volunteer activities, or you can develop your hobby into a personal project, or, if you're already playing in a school team, is there any way that you can take the captain position or like take a more leadership position, so our mentors will be able to guide you on that after looking at your profile more comprehensively. And then we would also dry run your dream school's application. Let's say if you have a dream school in the US, and let's say Harvard, you're very interested in applying for, and we will help you dry run the Common App personal statement. We would look at some of the prompts required by Harvard, and then we would brainstorm ideas together and practice writing those essays. So by the time you get to grade 12, you already have a good amount of content and materials that you can use to tweak them into perfect essays to submit for your universities. And it would also be less stressful for you to have to brainstorm everything from scratch when you're a senior student. And obviously, we also assist on personal projects. If you want to start, let's say, a company because you're interested in entrepreneurship, or you want assistance on summer school application to a competitive summer school program, or you're thinking about, doing exhibition at school, but then you don't know how to pitch your idea to the school. These are the kind of projects that we would help students to work on. And this is all inclusive, in the program as well. So in order to achieve everything, you would be doing around 25 hours to 20 hours of one-on-one consultation sessions with our mentor throughout your grade 11. So the earlier you start, the more time that you would have to work on all of the deliverables, and it doesn't need to be so crammed in the end. And obviously, if some of the programs that you're interested in applying for summer, they have a priority deadline. Like UPenn Wharton, they offer a very robust program in the summer, in-person summer camp, and it's for entrepreneurship and essentials of finance. So those seats runs out really quickly, and we often ask our students to apply by the priority deadline in January. So thinking about this, we are already in November almost. So if you don't start earlier on, you may miss out on the priority deadline for some of the summer schools. So that's why we, most of our students in grade 11, they will join our program around November to December time to try to catch some of the priority deadlines for the competitive summer school program. So we are flexible in terms of scheduling. So you would work out with your mentor what is a desirable schedule. Some students might do once a week. They might want to do twice a week, or they would want to do a bi-weekly meeting, avoiding the crunch time during your semester when you're focused on your projects or you're focused on your exams in school. So, we can definitely try to avoid that and maybe slot in a few more sessions during your winter break or Easter break. So most of our classes, they're held once every 2 to 3 weeks. But then if you have more urgent deadlines to meet, like the summer school application that I just talked to you about, then you can do more classes right before the deadline to get the application in shape. And then you can pace it out again as your school semester starts. So these are just some of the university guidance coaches that we work with, and could be your mentor too if you are onboarded with our program. So for example, we have mentors who are good with both US and UK application, like for Tonia. If you're interested in both locations and you need help with both side of the preparation, then we would pair you up with a mentor who has knowledge in both countries. And if you have a particular specific focus, let's say UC, University of California, as your dream school, then maybe we'll match you with a mentor like, Krista on the lower left-hand side of the screen, because she is from UC Berkeley and she's also like a Californian citizen. So she would have a lot of experience living there, and she grew up there. She may have more first-person perspective to share with you. And then after completing the entire program, we actually have a full final reports that we would deliver, and we would send that to your parents as well, so that they can look over your discovery and what are some of the important next steps and advice from us. And also we put together all the materials like your resume that you've worked on with us, the college essays that you have practiced with us, some of the extracurricular reflections that you've written, etc. Everything would be placed in the appendix for you and your parents as future references. Yeah, so quickly share a case study. So we had a student named Kelvin before that onboarded to our Practice Makes Perfect program. So for him, UK is a very clear goal for him, and then his dream school is Cambridge. So he went on to study with us for Practice Makes Perfect in grade 11, and he was in a boarding school in the UK. So yes, he has resources on campus, but then no one's going to give him the one-on-one support that he needed for Cambridge application. So we have mentor working with him throughout grade 11, and he also had extra help from the mentor to write emails to some of the professors that he's interested in working with in Hong Kong, because he's based in Hong Kong during the summer. So he wants to come back and do research projects with some of the professors here in universities. So we managed to hook him up with two particular professors in Hong Kong. And he managed to do lab work with them during the summer. And then he also wrote that part of his experience in the Cambridge essay that he was submitting to UK universities. So in the end, he got really amazing results in the UK all around. He was accepted by Cambridge, obviously his dream school. We also helped him with his university preparation in terms of interview, because Cambridge runs a very robust interview process, and we lined him up with another mentor who can do the mechanical engineering interview for Kelvin. So in the end, he did got offer from Cambridge. He also got accepted to Imperial College, Warwick, you name it. So he got amazing acceptances, from the UK side. So yeah, this is just a case study showing how we managed to add value to someone who is already very good academically, but he just needed that extra flair to make sure that he has the profile ready for Oxbridge level of application. Yeah, so circling the program that he has committed to work with us on, definitely the practice makes perfect, the one that I just, explained to you about. And then in the application year, he also did the UK only program plus the Oxford interview preparation. So yeah, I think that concludes our presentation today. So I hope you enjoy the content. And now I'm happy to take any additional questions that you may have on our program and also the overall, application preparation process in grade 11. Any questions? Am I all clear? And yes, actually, if you have any further questions, but then you feel like it's a little bit too personal to ask, you can email us and set up a one-on-one consultation, or, if our host can kindly send the link to our, one-on-one consultation booking, you can always make use of that, and you would have a free 20-minute slot with our guidance counselor, and you can ask any questions that you have specifically for your university preparation. Any questions that I can help answer? Yes, thank you. So I can already see that the one-on-one consultation link is shared in the group chat. Very good. Okay, if there's no further questions, I think we can end the webinar here today. So I hope you had a lot of takeaway and that it wasn't too intimidating for you to start thinking about your university application process. If you're grade 11, you're just beginning with the preparation exploration process. So don't worry, you still have time, but definitely it will be perfect to start thinking about your universities now. Okay, so thank you very much once again and have a great weekend.